You see it every day. People who understand what needs to be done, but they never step forward. They talk about their dreams, their goals, their plans, yet their actions never match the words in their mouth. And you start thinking, how is that possible? How can someone study, prepare, analyze, and still stay stuck in the exact same place? I'll tell you what I learned from football, from life, from the journey that took me from Madeira to the biggest stadiums in the world. There is a space, tiny, silent, hidden, between knowing something and actually doing it. And that space is where most dreams disappear. They don't crash loudly, they don't explode, they don't collapse with drama. No, they fade, quietly. They fade in the silent moments between I should do this and I actually did it. If you're not careful, that space becomes your home, a place full of almost achievements, half-finished intentions, and stories that start with I was planning to... Nobody wants that, but that's what most people get. Not because they weren't capable, but because they never acted on what they already knew. The toughest moment in life is when you look back and realize you weren't held back by bad luck, or lack of chances, or lack of knowledge, but by hesitation, by delay, by choosing comfort instead of progress. Knowledge matters, but knowledge alone doesn't put trophies in your cabinet. Knowledge doesn't take you to training at 4 a.m. Knowledge doesn't win matches. Action does. That's why this message isn't about learning more. It's about closing that space between understanding and execution. Because that space is the difference between who you are today and who you could become tomorrow. Every day you ignore that space, your goals drift further away. This is your moment to shut that distance permanently, to stop thinking and start building, to stop planning and start applying, to stop waiting and finally move. Once you start, even imperfectly, you step out of theory and into transformation. That's where the real change begins. We live in a time where information is everywhere. In your hands, in your pocket, in your room. There's advice for everything. Money, fitness, habits, success. But despite all this information, very few people actually change. Because knowing has replaced doing. They read something, watch a video, listen to a talk, and they feel a temporary spark, as if they've already taken action. But nothing in their life has changed. It's like reading about training drills and expecting your skills to improve. That's not how it works. Your brain gets stimulated, but your life stays the same. Knowledge without action is a trap. It gives the illusion of moving forward while you're standing still. Insight doesn't build your body. Insight doesn't strengthen your discipline. Insight doesn't fix your habits. Action does. Most people don't need a new secret formula. They already know what to do. They just don't do it consistently. I once met a man who studied business books more than some players study football tactics. Hundreds of books, notebooks full of ideas, perfect strategies, perfect plans. But when I asked him what he actually created, he had nothing. Because knowledge builds nothing. Action builds everything. The world rewards delivery, not potential. Consistency beats intelligence when intelligence sits still. The most dangerous place to be is thinking you're progressing when all you're doing is circling the same point, preparing, planning, adjusting, but never taking off. Motion isn't progress. Thinking isn't execution. Learning isn't improving. If knowing was enough, everyone would be strong, financially stable, healthy, confident. But the gap between knowing and doing is where most people fall. Ask yourself, what do you already know that you still haven't done? What habit have you talked about, written down, researched, but never practiced? What opportunity have you studied, but never taken a step toward? That's the gap. Don't confuse gathering information with living your life. At some point, you have to stop consuming and start applying. So why do people stop themselves? It's rarely motivation. It's fear. It's hesitation. It's the comfort of staying where you feel safe. As long as you're preparing, you can't fail. As long as you're thinking, you don't have to risk anything. Knowledge feels familiar. Action feels uncertain. People stay stuck because the planning stage feels protected. You can be busy without moving. You can feel productive without results. Perfectionism also keeps people frozen. They wait for the perfect method, perfect timing, perfect feeling. But nothing becomes perfect without first being done poorly. You can't master anything you never try. Then there is overwhelm. They look at the whole mountain instead of the first step, the whole season instead of today's training, the final result instead of the next repetition. Big changes are built through small actions. If you focus on the next step, you remove the pressure completely. Some people drown in too much information, more advice, more techniques, more content. But too much input creates paralysis. You become a collector of knowledge, not a performer. And procrastination, it isn't laziness. It's avoiding the discomfort of starting. Because starting means confronting doubt, confronting insecurity, confronting effort. But once you take that first step, the rest becomes easier. And for many, the biggest trap is comfort. They choose what's familiar instead of what's necessary, even if the familiar path is producing nothing. Comfort is the enemy of growth. Ask yourself, is temporary ease worth a lifetime of regret? You weren't created to sit on the bench while your potential burns away. You're built to compete, to progress, to move forward. Nothing you want, success, growth, achievement, lives inside the comfort zone. Everything you desire is waiting on the side of action. Now, the illusion must end. Understanding isn't enough. You've seen that, you've lived that, and now you know why so many remain stuck. Because staying still feels safer than moving forward. But safety doesn't create progress. Safety doesn't create freedom. Safety doesn't create greatness. If you want change, you have to break the pattern. You have to replace thinking with execution. Most people wait to feel ready. They wait for confidence. They wait for motivation. But those feelings come later, not first. You act. Then the feelings follow. Movement creates confidence. Movement creates motivation. Discipline is what builds the bridge. Discipline doesn't check your mood. Discipline doesn't negotiate. Discipline doesn't wait. It shows up every single day. That is what separates amateurs from professionals. Not talent, not luck, not intelligence. Discipline. Amateurs act when they feel good. Professionals act because the work needs to be done. You don't need to be exceptional to start. You need to be consistent enough to continue. Doing doesn't require perfection. That's another illusion. Everything at the beginning is rough. Everything feels awkward. Everything feels uncertain. but that's the price of progress. If you keep showing up, even tired, even nervous, even unsure, you build resilience, you build momentum, you build identity. And identity is powerful. When doing becomes part of who you are, you don't force discipline. It becomes natural. Most people try to feel inspired first, but the real path is different. Act first. The feelings will follow. Show up uncertain. Confidence will grow. Show up without energy. Strength will appear. Show up afraid. Courage will rise. Everything you want exists on the other side of movement. One action, one task, one step. Start now.